1 week after 9/11, an FBI special agent interviews a prisoner in a New York City jail.
I walked in and I sat down with him and I said, well, tell me how they did it.
Immediately after the terrorist attacks, authorities placed the prisoner in 24-hour lockdown. For a week, he's been in total isolation, with no access to TV, radio, or newspapers.
You know.
What he laid out was the attack as if he knew every detail of it. This is how you position yourself. I taught people how to sit in first class. I told you about utility knives. It was just kind of eerie.
The prisoner is this man.
My name is Ali Mohamad.
He was Osama bin Laden's spy in America. He worked for and betrayed 3 arms of the U.S. government: the CIA, the U.S. Army, and the FBI. An extraordinary triple cross. He paved the way for al-Qaeda in the United States.
Islam without political domination cannot survive.
He helped bin Laden build the global terror network we know today. How did U.S. authorities fail to connect the dots? How did he pull it off? And where is he now? The story of Ali Mohamad and one of the most twisted roads leading to 9/11 begins here in Cairo, Egypt. October 6th, 1981. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat reviews troops at a military parade. Suddenly, a group of army officers leaps from a truck. They spray the reviewing stand with gunfire. The Egyptian president, who made peace with Israel, is assassinated.
The world has lost a great statesman, and mankind has lost a champion of peace.
Egyptian authorities link Sadat's killers to a radical group that will become known as Egyptian Islamic Jihad, or EIJ. The group's spiritual leader, arrested within days of the murder, is this man, Sheikh Omar Abdelrahman. He is a blind cleric who, by many accounts, gave the fatwa or decree calling for Sadat to be killed. Some Egyptians agree with the blind sheikh and applaud the assassination. One of them is this 29-year-old army major, Ali Abdel Saud Mohammed. At the time of Sadat's murder, Mohammed is far from Cairo, here at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He is part of a regular exchange program that sponsors dozens of foreign officers each year. The U.S. Army base is home to the Green Berets, as well as the elite counterterrorism squad known as Delta Force. Mohammed joins the Green Berets in guerrilla warfare exercises. The trim, rock-solid 6'1" Ali is the son of a soldier. He is adventurous and well-educated, fluent in English, French, Arabic, and Hebrew, and has a degree in psychology. He's from a middle-class family, but like many Egyptians, he feels alienated by a government he considers corrupt and oppressive. As an officer in the Egyptian Special Forces, he has fought in battles against both Libya and Israel. His language skills have won him choice assignments, protecting Egyptian diplomats overseas. He is also a firm believer in radical Islam and the need for a holy war, or jihad, against the enemies of his religion.
Ali Mohamad was caught up in that whole movement of young Egyptian officers whose loyalty shifted from the Egyptian regime to that of the Muslim Brotherhood, and ultimately its derivative, the Egyptian Islamic Jihad.
Mohammed graduates from the Fort Bragg exchange program. When he returns home, the secular regime of the new Egyptian president, Hosni Mubarak, is cracking down on radical Muslims. Ali Mohamad becomes a target. His Egyptian military career will soon be over. Another one, based on jihad, is about to begin.
The ideology of jihad is very appealing to some people, and certainly Ali Mohamad fell in love with that ideology.
It's an ideology that's leading to a rapid rise in terrorism. Beirut, Lebanon, 1983. 2 suicide bombings, one at the U.S. Embassy and a second at the U.S. Marine Barracks at the Beirut airport, kill more than 300 people. Both are believed to be the work of the Iranian-backed terrorist organization Hezbollah. As a result, President Reagan withdraws the U.S. Marines from Lebanon. Islamic extremists throughout the region celebrate the withdrawal as a sign of American weakness. To address the growing threat, the CIA needs better human intelligence. And the only way to get that is to recruit more locals willing to infiltrate the world of radical Islam. Cairo, 1984. The Egyptian army dismisses Major Ali Mohamad from the military. Despite his reputation as a dangerous radical, he gets a new job as a security advisor with the national airline, Egypt Air. Mohamad gravitates to the Egyptian Islamic Jihad. He gets a call from this EIJ leader, a wealthy surgeon who served 3 years in prison in connection with the Sadat murder, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. Zawahiri offers to test the young man by giving him a surveillance job. The assignment is to scout the Cairo airport and write a detailed report on the best way to hijack a plane here. Mohamad passes the test and clearly impresses Zawahiri. His next mission, infiltrate U.S. intelligence. Later that same year, Mohamad appears at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. He offers his services as an informant. CIA officials in Cairo are skeptical. The Egyptians warn them that Ali Mohamad is a radical Muslim. Nonetheless, the Cairo office lets its counterparts around the world know that Ali Mohamad is available for an assignment. A response comes back from the CIA in West Germany. It could use a man like Ali. As a result, Mohamad goes on a mission for the CIA. His assignment? Infiltrate a mosque here in Hamburg with ties to Hezbollah. Mohamad quickly reveals himself.
Ali goes in and over the course of a week he lets it be known to the people in the mosque that he's actually been sent there at the behest of the agency.
CIA officials quickly find out that Mohamad has betrayed them. The agency says it terminates its relationship with him. The U.S. State Department adds Mohamad's name to a watch list as a suspected terrorist. But Zawahiri has bigger plans for Mohamad. He sends him on his next mission. Enter the United States and keep looking for ways to infiltrate U.S. intelligence. Even though Mohamad's name is on a watch list, the State Department issues him a visa. At the time, officials are simply not focused on terrorist threats inside the U.S. One news report would later say Mohamad gets past the watch list with CIA help.
Did somebody close their eyes and just sign off something and give it to him? We were never able to confirm that. I think it's a function of A, not knowing what B is doing, and that he took advantage of it.
Either way, Mohamad heads for America, looking to exploit any weakness in security. New York City, September 6th, 1985. Ali Mohamad's plane touches down here at Kennedy Airport. He has already made his first U.S. conquest. On the plane, the good-looking 33-year-old bachelor caught the eye of a woman from California who was heading home from a vacation in Greece.
Thank you, Linda.
Ali follows up with a series of calls. After a 6-week courtship, they get married at the Chapel of the Bells in Reno, Nevada. Mohammed moves into his bride's duplex here in Santa Clara, California. Her name is being withheld to protect her identity. With an American wife as his ticket, Mohammed studies to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. He also reaches out to a friend from the Egyptian Islamic Jihad and urges him to move to California. The friend, Khalid Abu al-Dahab, says he wants to join the Muslim warriors who are fighting to drive the Soviets out of Afghanistan, warriors being secretly funded by the CIA. Mohammed convinces his friend otherwise. Come to America, but be patient, he tells Dahab. There is a bigger plan. August 15th, 1986. Ali Mohamad shows up at this Army recruiting office in Oakland, California. He says he wants to enlist. Even though the Egyptian military expelled him for his radical beliefs, and even though the U.S. State Department had him on a watch list, the U.S. Army accepts him.
There is nothing more important for a terrorist group than to have a live agent, a living agent inside a military organization such as the US military.
Mohammed sails through boot camp. At 34, he's older than most of the other recruits. But he shows his physical prowess by running 2 miles in under 10 minutes. Mohammed makes sergeant. And he ends up right back at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he was an exchange officer 6 years earlier. He takes paratrooper classes and maintains equipment for a special forces unit. Mohammed begins searching for documents that he can steal and pass along to his comrades in Egyptian Islamic Jihad.
Those documents were varied from the actual ship docking locations of U.S. warships in the Persian Gulf to actually training manuals for special operations warfare at Fort Bragg.
In 1987, Mohammed joins his unit in Egypt for a joint U.S.-Egyptian military exercise called Bright Star. During the desert maneuvers, the Egyptians again warn their U.S. colleagues that Mohammed is a dangerous radical. As a result, the U.S. sends Mohammed back to Fort Bragg and removes him from the Special Forces unit. But he stays in the Army. His new supervisor at Fort Bragg quickly becomes wary of him after a conversation about the assassination of Anwar Sadat.
I said to him, you know, Anwar Sadat was not only a hero to Egypt, but he was also a hero to the United States and the entire free world. So his response to me was, he was a traitor and he had to die. And at that point, I realized that he was a religious fanatic.
Colonel Anderson allows Mohammed to remain in his unit, in spite of his misgivings.
He had you see in the movies quite often, only this person you see firsthand, he had an air about him, a stare, a very coldness.
My name is Ali Mohamad. I'm a former Egyptian officer.
In fact, the JFK Special Warfare Center at Fort Bragg enlists Mohammed to teach seminars and join in videotape panel discussions like this one about the Middle East. It exposes soldiers to a radical Muslim viewpoint.
We have to establish an Islamic State because Islam without political domination cannot survive.
The students felt it was unbelievable. Some of them even thought it was a joke, that nobody could be that extreme.
As long as we're talking about the war with Israel, what do you see as prospects for Mideast peace?
Mohammed fields questions from American officers and insists that Americans are blind to the Arab perspective.
The United States doesn't see what the Arabs see. The American will not listen to him because the Americans see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear.
He also expresses his hatred for Israel and his view that the Jewish state should not exist.
Nobody can recognize Israel as a right to live because Israel stole an Islamic territory. This is from Islamic perspective, and we do not accept no peace, no international conference, nothing, no compromise.
In 1988, Mohammed's 3-year tour with the army is nearing an end. He's getting ready to take his radical beliefs, as well as the skills he's learned and the intelligence he gathered from the U.S. military, and put them into action. Mohammed will do so on behalf of this man, who is about to create a global terrorist organization. It's called al-Qaeda. Brooklyn, New York, 1988. U.S. Army Sergeant Ali Mohamad makes a call to this storefront mosque. Inside the mosque, a fellow radical Egyptian runs a recruitment center for Muslims who want to go fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. The center is called Al-Qifa, Arabic for the struggle. It's the flagship of a network of such centers in major cities worldwide. The Egyptian, Mustafa Shalabi, also raises tens of thousands of dollars to support the Afghan resistance fighters, known as Mujahideen. Shalabi conveys a request to Mohammed from the resistance leaders. They want him to come to Afghanistan and train their holy warriors. At Fort Bragg, Ali Mohamad meets with his supervisor, Lieutenant Colonel Anderson. He tells Anderson he plans to use his army leave to go to Afghanistan, join the Mujahideen, and fight the Soviets.
I said, look, I don't know who you think you are, but you can't go around the world thinking that the United States Army is going to like that, because there's no telling how much trouble that you could put the United States in as a member of the United States Army going around killing Russians.
Mohammed is nothing if not audacious. He uses his army leave to go to Afghanistan anyway, a flagrant violation of army rules. Peshawar, Pakistan. Mohammed journeys to this bustling town on the border with Afghanistan, where the CIA is running a covert operation to supply weapons to the Mujahideen. From here, Mohammed enters the war zone. Also aiding the Mujahideen from his base in Peshawar is the 17th son of a construction billionaire from Saudi Arabia, named Osama bin Laden. The 31-year-old bin Laden is funneling money to the rebels from Arab donors. Joining forces with bin Laden is Ali Mohamad's mentor, and now a top leader in the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. A month after he left for Afghanistan, Ali Mohamad returns here, 25 pounds lighter, and brandishing a war trophy.
And then he came back and gave us a debriefing with maps, and even brought back this Russian Special Forces belt. He said that he'd killed the Russian Special Forces soldier.
Colonel Anderson says he sent 2 separate reports to his superiors, criticizing Ali Mohamad for his Afghan adventure. He receives no response. Anderson says he did not have enough evidence to bring charges against Mohamad. By the end of 1988, Afghan forces, with the CIA's help, drive the Soviets out. The war comes to an end. Bin Laden, determined to wage a global jihad, needs to expand his organization to support the next step in his master plan. He forms the base. In Arabic, it's called al-Qaeda. In the coming year, bin Laden will take over the worldwide fundraising network of al-Qifa centers, including Shalabi's office in Brooklyn. At the center of bin Laden's plans for infiltrating the U.S. will be none other than U.S. Army Sergeant Ali Mohamad. Cliffside Park, New Jersey. Spring 1989. Mohamad visits this house, the home of a fellow Egyptian, an air conditioning repairman named El Sayed Nosser. Mohammed has agreed to train Nosair and a few other men in paramilitary and surveillance tactics. Some of the men fought in the Soviet-Afghan War. They all belong to the Al-Farouk Mosque in Brooklyn. The training is part of Mohammed's fierce dedication to his terrorist mission in the U.S. It's a mission still guided by Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, now a trusted aide to bin Laden. These men will become one of the first Islamic terror cells in America.
Ali Mohamad not only served the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, but served al-Qaeda from the very beginning of his association with Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri.
Mohammed's dedication is based on his radical Muslim beliefs, beliefs that he shared with his army colleagues at Fort Bragg.
You have one line, you accept the one line or not. So the word of fundamentalist means that I accept everything and this is my way.
At Nosair's house, Mohammed hides military documents which he stole from Fort Bragg. He also gives lectures here in Jersey City, New Jersey, in a room downstairs from the Al-Salam Mosque. Insiders call it the Jihad Office. Mohammed stocks the office with copies of his Fort Bragg training manuals, including instructions on how to build booby traps and bombs. As part of his terrorist curriculum, Mohammed teaches students to communicate using so-called dead mail drops, private P.O. boxes located at an inconspicuous location. This tactic allows terrorists to communicate anonymously. El Sayed Nosair and his fellow terrorists in training get mailboxes here at the Sphinx Trading Company in the very same building as the mosque. Brooklyn, New York, summer 1989. Over 4 consecutive weekends, a convoy of cars leaves the Al-Farouk Mosque. A surveillance team tails them. After receiving a tip about a possible bomb threat, the FBI and New York police are investigating Mustafa Shalabi and his recruitment center. The convoy drives 75 miles east onto Long Island. It stops here at a firing range in the town of Calverton. An FBI photographer parks at a distance and snaps these pictures. El Sayed Nosair and his comrades produce an array of semi-automatic weapons, including AK-47 assault rifles. The 5 men, all trained by Ali Mohamad, spend hours firing their weapons. After a month, the bomb plot never materializes. The surveillance ends. Authorities make no arrests. The men have not broken any law, and at the time, terrorism is not the top priority for U.S. law enforcement.
That was something that happened overseas. There was no undercovers, there was no wiretaps. The ability to do that against a religious organization would have been incredibly difficult.
Fall 1989. Ali Mohamad finishes his 3-year tour at Fort Bragg. Even though his name has been on a watch list, he is sworn in as a U.S. citizen. Now 37 years old, Mohamad returns home to his wife here in Santa Clara, California, and he begins to work on an assignment that reflects the growing ambition of Osama bin Laden, building a terror cell on the West Coast. Mohamad's friend, Khalid Abu al-Dahab, has entered the U.S. from Egypt on a student visa and settled into an apartment near Mohammad's house. They have converted Dahab's apartment into a terrorist communication hub. They patch through calls between their native Egypt and terrorist cells around the world. New York City, July 1990. The Egyptian cleric widely known for issuing the decree to murder Anwar Sadat arrives here at Kennedy Airport. The so-called blind sheikh, Omar Abdel Rahman, is on a State Department list of suspected terrorists. But like Ali Mohamad, he too has somehow received a U.S. visa. The sheikh is one of the most prominent leaders in the world of radical Islam, and now an ally of al-Qaeda. His presence in America is both an opportunity for bin Laden to spread his influence and a call to action for the terrorists trained by Ali Mohamad.
This was a major league ball player in what at the time was a minor league ballpark. His arrival into this country legitimized the people at the Farouk Mosque.
The blind sheikh gets an apartment here in Brooklyn's Bay Ridge neighborhood. It is rumored that bin Laden is covering his living expenses.
وقفوا في طريقها كان الجهاد في سبيل الله.
The blind sheikh starts preaching here at the Al-Farouk Mosque. He declares holy war on the U.S. He calls for Islam to rule the world. His fiery rhetoric galvanizes the militants at Al-Farouk, including 34-year-old El Sayed Nosair. Nosair is ready to put what he learned from Ali Mohamad into action. He will take aim at a well-known enemy of the Arab world. November 5th, 1990. El Sayed Nosair enters this hotel in Midtown Manhattan. He's disguised as an observant Jew. In a ballroom, Rabbi Meir Kahane, founder of the Radical Jewish Defense League, has just finished giving a speech. Kahane advocates the expulsion of Arabs from Israel. Nosair approaches the rabbi and pulls out a .357 Magnum revolver. He pumps a shot at close range into the rabbi. Kahane is dead. Nosair flees the hotel. Minutes later, after a shootout in the street, police arrest him. The next night in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, the FBI and local police seized more than a dozen boxes of evidence from Nosair's house. The boxes contain some classified military documents that Ali Mohamad stole from Fort Bragg, as well as audio tapes of the blind sheikh calling for terrorist attacks in America.
There was a treasure trove of connections to terrorist groups. Unfortunately, most of it was not exploited or even looked at the time of Nosair being arrested.
The Manhattan DA's office prosecutes Nosair as a lone gunman, not as part of a conspiracy.
In that environment, when there wasn't the perception of a larger terrorist Islamic threat to the United States, we didn't conceive of them being capable of carrying out a conspiracy to ultimately harm the American public.
Near San Francisco, California, 1990. Ali Mohamad meets with an FBI agent here. It's the next step in his mission, now directed by the evolving al-Qaeda leadership in Afghanistan. Mohamad offers his services as a translator. During the interview, he tosses out some raw intelligence to prove his worth. As a result, the FBI ends up using him not as a translator, but as an informant. One of Mohamad's assignments will be to infiltrate this mosque in Santa Clara, run by a group of radical Palestinians. Just as he did with the CIA in Germany, Mohamad exposes the operation, revealing himself as an FBI plant. But the FBI does not discover the betrayal at the time. Brooklyn, New York, February 1991. The blind sheikh gives speeches denouncing his fellow Egyptian, Mustafa Shalabi, who runs the recruitment center at the Brooklyn Mosque. Both men are allies of bin Laden, but they disagree about how to use all the money that Shalabi raised for the Afghan Jihad. Shalabi wants to use it for charity, but the blind sheikh wants to use the money for terrorism. His ally, bin Laden, is agitating to strike back at the U.S. in the wake of the Gulf War. Bin Laden is incensed that the U.S. has established bases in his native Saudi Arabia, the Holy Land of Mecca and Medina. The blind sheikh's attacks continue. Shalabi has decided that he and his wife should travel home to Egypt. On the day that Shalabi's wife is heading to the airport, Ali Mohamad happens to be in New York and gives her a ride. March 1st, 1991. A neighbor in Shalabi's Coney Island apartment building notices his door open. Inside, Shalaby lies in a pool of blood. He's been stabbed, shot, and strangled. The apartment has been ransacked. Police suspect the blind sheikh is behind the murder, but they find no physical evidence that connects anyone to the crime, and there are no arrests. According to terrorism expert Steve Emerson, Ali Mohamad may be the reason why. He allegedly receives an assignment from the blind sheikh's terror cell.
After the killing, he was brought in to clean up the apartment and to make sure that nobody who was involved in the killing could ever be found. That murder was never solved to this day.
With Shalaby out of the way, the blind sheikh takes over the Al-Khifa Center. He allows this al-Qaeda associate from Texas, a 30-year-old Lebanese-American named Wadi El-Hajj, to manage it briefly. Osama bin Laden now has a loyal outpost in New York City. And though the FBI does not realize it yet, there is a terror cell operating here, with links to bin Laden, the blind sheikh, and Ali Mohamad. Mohamad is now ready to take on more ambitious assignments for al-Qaeda around the world, as the terror organization grows into a global threat. Peshawar, Pakistan, late 1991. Here, at this city near the Afghan border, Ali Mohamad is carrying out a major assignment for al-Qaeda to help Osama bin Laden move to a new base of operations. Bin Laden has enemies everywhere and needs a personal security force. Mohamad's wife back in California believes he's just away on another business trip. Bin Laden has enough faith in Mohamad that he entrusts him to coordinate the dangerous move and protect him from attack. They cross 1,000 miles by car, sometimes putting bin Laden in disguise. They deliver him to Karachi, Pakistan, where his private jet is waiting. From Karachi, bin Laden travels here to Khartoum, Sudan, where the radical Islamic government has agreed to protect him and about 500 of his followers. It becomes bin Laden's new headquarters. New York City, December 1991. Bin Laden helps achieve a victory in an American courtroom. The al-Qaeda leader contributes $20,000 to a defense fund for Egyptian el-Said Nosser, charged with the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane. Renowned defense attorney William Kunstler represents Nosser and convinces the jury to only find him guilty on gun and assault charges. Attending a celebration party the following night in this Brooklyn mosque is this ex-Egyptian military officer, Imad Salem. But unlike Ali Mohamad, he despises the blind sheikh for his role in the Sadat murder. Salem has made a deal with the FBI and agreed to go undercover as a mole to try and expose the blind sheikh's terror cell for $500 a week.
He had posed himself as a bomb maker. In fact, he really had no bomb making knowledge at all. But again, he played the role well. He made himself invaluable to the sheikh.
Within weeks, as seen in this news footage, Salem is serving occasionally as the blind sheikh's bodyguard and also accompanying him on fundraising trips. Host, Afghanistan, September 1992. Ali Mohamad is at an outpost in the mountains near the Pakistani border. It is home to an international university of terrorists, sponsored by bin Laden. Hundreds of applicants from more than 50 countries worldwide converge here to attend a boot camp. Mohamad is one of the instructors. He's known as an especially demanding teacher. He drills his students in hand-to-hand combat and explosives. They rehearse for kidnappings and assassinations. They practice surveillance of bombing targets. They learn to organize a terror cell. He spends months at a time training al-Qaeda foot soldiers both in Afghanistan and in Sudan.
The success of any terrorist attack depends on two things. One is surveillance and reconnaissance of the future intended target. Second is rehearsal. Ali Mohamad introduced these two concepts to al-Qaeda.
Mohamad draws on his experience as a security consultant for Egypt Air to teach his students how to hijack a plane. He explains where the hijackers should position themselves in the cabin and how to smuggle utility knives on board.
Did they have the FAA manual as to what would allow them to put on the airplane, what you could bring on an airplane in terms of knives and other stuff? The answer is yes.
Ali Mohamad is so confident in his ability to operate under the radar that he pulls off yet another audacious infiltration, this time to help raise money to pay for terrorist operations. Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri is now one of bin Laden's closest advisors. With Ali Mohamad's help, Zawahiri enters the U.S. under an alias, using a fake passport provided by Mohamad. Mohamad accompanies him on a fundraising tour of mosques on the West Coast. They claim to be raising money for Red Crescent, the Islamic relief organization. New York City, fall 1992. FBI mole Imad Salem uncovers valuable intelligence about the blind sheikh and his connections to terrorism. The FBI decides that Salem now has to wear a wire or hidden bugging device to record his conversations with the terrorists who are linked to the blind sheikh. Salem refuses.
He didn't want to wear a wire because Sheikh Rockman was an important jihad figure in the world. If he turned against any one of their groups, would have to worry about his family at home.
Salem's refusal to wear a wire makes some FBI officials begin to question his credibility.
There was a discussion in the office because he wasn't wearing the wire, maybe he wasn't telling the truth. So he was dismissed.
The FBI has now lost its eyes and ears inside the blind sheikh's Brooklyn cell, and the blind sheikh has lost the man he thinks is a bomb maker. Soon, another bomb maker, a real one, will be on his way to New York. Ramzi Youssef will team up with members of the blind sheikh's terror cell, men trained by Ali Mohamad, and pull off the first major act of Islamic terrorism on U.S. soil. By 1992, former U.S. Army Sergeant Ali Mohamad is playing a critical part in the growth of al-Qaeda. One long-term project has widespread impact. Mohamad creates a training manual that bin Laden distributes to his troops worldwide. In writing it, the former U.S. Army Sergeant makes ample use of the documents that he stole from Fort Bragg.
Ali Mohamad created a body of knowledge that would help al-Qaeda's transformation from guerrilla force into a urban terrorist organization.
Using this curriculum, Mohamad conducts seminars at al-Qaeda training camps on everything from assassinations to surveillance. Bin Laden himself takes one of his classes. Mohamad is confident enough in his relationship with bin Laden that when the time comes to give out grades, he gives the al-Qaeda leader a C. September 1st, 1992. A flight arrives here at New York's Kennedy Airport from Pakistan, carrying Ramzi Youssef, a bomb-building genius with a dozen aliases. Using a fake Iraqi passport, he tries to convince U.S. immigration officials that he is a refugee. The INS detains Youssef, and then, due to a lack of beds at this INS holding facility, releases him. The INS does find a bed, however, for Youssef's traveling companion. In his suitcase, officials discover terrorist manuals, as well as U.S. military training manuals from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Both Youssef and his companion received training in terror camps at around the same time that Ali Mohamad was teaching in Afghanistan. Youssef heads immediately for the Al-Qifa Center in Brooklyn. It's home to the terror cell now led by the blind sheikh and trained by Ali Mohamad. Yusuf soon begins working out of this storage facility in Jersey City, New Jersey. He buys fertilizer and fuel oil to build a 1,500-pound bomb that he hopes will destroy the World Trade Center. 3 of his co-conspirators have been trained by Ali Mohamad and photographed by the FBI 3 years earlier at a firing range on Long Island. February 26, 1993. Ramzi Yusuf and 3 other cell members load their 1,500-pound bomb into a yellow Ryder van. They park it on the B2 level beneath the Twin Towers. 12:17 p.m. Yusuf's bomb detonates. It creates a 7-story crater. Kills 6 people and injures 1,000 more. But Yusuf has failed. The bomb was not powerful enough. The towers stand. Ramzi Yusuf flees the country, frustrated, but still determined to bring down this symbol of America's global might. Vancouver, British Columbia, June 1993. 4 months after the World Trade Center bombing, Ali Mohamad waits at the airport here to pick up an old colleague. The colleague is a 24-year-old fellow Egyptian named Issam Marzouk, one of the men who helped Mohamad move Osama bin Laden out of Afghanistan 2 years earlier. But Marzouk runs afoul of the Canadian customs officials. When he tries to slip through using a fake Saudi passport, they arrest him. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police take Marzouk into custody. They quickly detain Ali Mohamad as well and question him for hours. Finally, Mohamad gives the Mounties a phone number and asks them to call it. On the other end of the phone, the person who answers vouches for Mohamad. It is his FBI control agent in San Francisco.
Ali Mohamad calls the FBI, and the FBI intervenes to some extent. I don't think you have to be an agent who has worked, terrorism all their life to realize something is terribly amiss here.
And yet, with the FBI agent's blessing, the Mounties release Ali Mohamad. When he returns to the U.S., the FBI takes no action against him. Mohamad's FBI handler does, however, follow up by conducting an interview with him in San Francisco. Mohamad explains that a man named Osama bin Laden runs an organization called al-Qaeda. He says bin Laden wants to overthrow the Saudi government. He admits to the agent that he has been to Afghanistan and taught at bin Laden's training camps there. He says the subjects included intelligence and hijacking. The FBI agent notifies his superiors in Washington.
To his credit, says, this is a little bit out of my league, so I think I ought to get somebody out here who is a specialist on this. So he contacts FBI headquarters.
The FBI puts in a request for someone with the right kind of expertise in the U.S. military to come interview Mohamad. The Pentagon decides to send officers from Fort Meade, Maryland, headquarters of the National Security Agency.
Out from Fort Meade comes military officers who are traveling in the black. In other words, they've got false IDs and everything, covering up who they are.
The intelligence officers debrief Mohamad. An FBI agent will later try to find out what Mohamad was telling these top-secret officials about bin Laden and his training camps. The Pentagon tells him the reports were probably destroyed.
Ali Mohamad knew how to exploit the system perfectly and to play off one branch of an agency, such as the FBI, against another. He had provided just enough details of al-Qaeda to be considered an asset, but not enough that would result in him being suspected as a key player in the organization itself.
Within the FBI, officials later acknowledge There is not enough communication between agents in different cities. As a result, counterterrorism officials in New York do not learn about Ali Mohamad's admission that he visited bin Laden's training camps.
Back during that time period, there didn't seem a coordinated group. Let me put it this way. You had pockets of people in different places. We didn't have the opportunity to say that, things that were going on in New York had a relationship to California.
In the months after the World Trade Center bombing, the FBI and Justice Department are playing catch-up. The investigation shows links to the blind sheikh. The pressure is on to do something about him. FBI officials decide the best way to gather evidence on the blind sheikh is to bring back their Egyptian informant, Imad Salem. He's the man they dismissed 6 months earlier because he wouldn't wear a wire. This time, instead of $500 a week, they agreed